Hi, this is Ted Shire, host of JETT Radio, and JETT Radio is committed to community service as a means of sustainability. Today, my guest is Dr. Rick Christman. He is Assistant Provost and Vice President for Academic and Student Services at Ohio Christian University. Ohio Christian has a strong outreach program to its host community, and we'll hear a more academic perspective on community outreach today. So first I want to give some background comments, and then I look forward to talking with Rick more about their community outreach programs, and they have some good stories there. So what is sustainability? And again, want to repeat this theme so that it sinks in a little bit better. It can be defined in terms of what it takes to achieve lasting sustainability, and that is everyone doing their part to better the community. Sustainability can be defined in this way because all areas of sustainability are dependent on human behavior, except in the case of non-anthropomorphic natural disasters like an asteroid, and those things don't happen very often. But why sustainability? Most nations are becoming less sustainable because people have been satisfied with cultural standards. If I provide for myself and my family, I've met the cultural standard and I don't need to do anything more. Cultural acceptance gives us a false sense of security about the wider world. And the result is that governments have taken over responsibility for those in need, and that has not had a good track record. This approach lacks the kind of community that helps people become self-sustaining, and it creates a dependence on a system that isolates people from real community. Alternatively, outreach to the community helps us while we help others. It's actually one of the best ways to spend family time, so there doesn't have to be a time conflict. Everyone feels overscheduled and, I don't have time for things other than my family, and in fact, the two synergize. It helps us, community service helps us personally. It was the main help to me during an identity and career crisis that burned me out, as we discussed last time. So this initial series is part of a book launch for Everyone Needs Sustainability, and that's a book that I have written that describes community service as a means of sustainability, as well as how the different areas of sustainability interact, which include personal, community, environmental, and financial sustainability. This week's focus is community sustainability. Last week we talked about personal sustainability. They interrelate, and we will discuss unsustainable patterns of community living and how the transition can be made to a more sustainable path. If you have a question, feel free to call in at 855-244-0077. So let's go ahead and get started with some of the unsustainable patterns of community living. What we know has not worked. So throughout history, humans have not solved their problems via political means. If a political approach is taken, there's always some sort of imbalance. And we see that on the extremes of communist genocides, which occurred instead of the intended common good, which are written out in the manifestos and all that. The intent, the result was about as far as away from the intent as possible. And even with democracy, they have been too subject to greed and too slow to change because of political deadlock. Continuing on with examples of unsustainable patterns of community living, overcommitment on lower priorities, such as material gain prioritized over family building and community building, when the reverse is actually what works. So cultural norms that reinforce this include inheritance without community, and it doesn't necessarily mean that inheritance is inherently bad. But inheritance without community creates identity issues and purposelessness. A reliance on inheritance reinforces that our identity is based in material prosperity. Expensive gifts without healthy relationships reinforces that material prosperity is more important than relationships. And this perspective then actually weakens the relationship because gifts can't substitute for real relationship building. Community service helps people value the right things, and people have a great time doing it. Personally, I've never had an experience where people were down in the dumps at a volunteer activity. It's pretty much been win-win all the way. So community service helps to promote right values, treating others as we would want to be treated if we were in need. And who doesn't want that? When we are in need and in any area of life, being served by others in that situation is about as uplifting a thing as we can experience. Community service is very important. It breaks down fear in relationships. Serving others has psychological benefits. And so, as I mentioned before, inheritance doesn't have to be inherently bad. Inheritance with community can have great benefits. So, if it's done with the right values and the right community, it can have high impact. And probably one of the better known examples of that is Howard Buffett, who's using his inheritance resources to do good things with soil sustainability and poverty work. And a reference for that is his book, 40 Chances. So another unsustainable pattern that we can look at is government financial assistance without community. And this has led to isolation, not community. Too often, money is provided without accountability and without involving members of a healthy community who can help people to get their lives back on track. Money by itself usually has a negative impact. So you have a situation where government has been taking care of needs so that people don't need to rely as much on their neighbors. And it creates a mindset of isolation. And it can lead to thinking such as no one cares, there's nothing to lose, and that's what's led to some of the gang activity that we've seen. An example that many of us have heard of is Cabrini Green. I used to actually ride my bike past Cabrini Green every morning on my way to the train station when I lived in Chicago. But there, things were notoriously bad. There were rat and cockroach infestations, rotting garbage in the trash chutes that went several stories high. The garbage piled up several stories high in the trash chute. The stench of urine and insecticide in the hallways, malfunctioning elevators, graffiti on the walls, as well as problems with basic utilities such as bursting pipes. There was really no ownership in that situation. It was a self-reinforcing, self-destructive entitlement mindset bred by unaccountable government assistance. And that doesn't have to be. Government assistance can cooperate with local communities to build a more sustainable trajectory. So another example of unsustainable patterns are living for retirement and individualistic success. So using resources accumulated over a lifetime exclusively for pleasure travel and enjoyment results in insufficient community investment. And it results in a situation where we're not sufficiently reinvesting in the institutions or communities that invested in us, or and insufficient investment in the next generation. So people can't. There's so many nonprofits out there. People can't invest in all of them. There's too many, but we can invest in the ones that made an impact in our lives, or the ones in the area of interest where we want to make an impact. We all have different interests for a reason, so that all the needs in the community will be addressed. There's a diversity of interests in the community, which creates a broad base for sustainability investments. It's a great opportunity. The ability to make direct impacts in the community without having to do all the organizational setup work is awesome. This multiplies our impact and minimizes the time involved. The multitude of nonprofits, especially in the United States, make sure that there's several organizations with overlap that can make exactly or almost exactly the impact that you want to have, and that's exciting. To have the potential to have immediate impact with your resources in exactly the way that you want to have it. And there's over 1 million nonprofits in the United States, and that includes everything. So, but the best of those are going to be very effective organizations. So, before we leave this this topic, if the climax generation doesn't pass along their life lessons to the next generation, it's a very inefficient system. It creates experience and education gaps. If that gap were filled by the climax generation passing on their life lessons to the next generation, there would be a huge difference, because there's many people that are open in the young generation to learning from the lessons of their predecessors. So, Rick, first question for you, and then first couple of questions for you, and then we'll take a break. But
Sure.
what are some of the cultural standards that you see contributing to unsustainable life patterns?
That's a really good question, Ted. And two things that I was thinking about as you were sharing there was, the first one is a loss of external focus on others. And essentially what I'm trying to say is that not seeing the needs of others is important or relevant. And one of the things that we want, not just for our student population here at Ohio Christian University, but also for our faculty and staff, is that we try to help them not just focus what's going on campus or within their own lives, but being able to extend that beyond their own lives and the campus life, and being able to invest in the community that surrounds us. And then the second thing is that I think is the lack of understanding on how my investment in a community and others can produce a positive effect for everyone. And I think that's important to understand as we think about sustainability, because it's not just investing in what I have or investing in what I need, but putting my investments back into the community so that it has a positive effect on the lives in the community that surrounds us.
Yeah,
And, I think that's a win-win for everyone. But what we have a tendency to do is to become so focused or so narrowly focused that we forget that those around us have needs, and whether it's a organization or just individuals.
yeah. No, that's real good. So you mentioned the loss of external focus. What kind of impact do you see that having on both faculty and students?
Well, their responses, I think, sometimes is that they're not able to always see those needs or understand to what extent those needs exist. And one of our jobs is to be able to help create an understanding of that, whether it's through articles or just a call out to the community to say what needs can we help you with. We do those specifically a couple times a year, but we're trying to focus on our community and assist. So sometimes it's just the inability to see it. The other thing is, I think that it helps in the education process, both for staff, faculty, students, as they're taking time away from those things that are important, but that maybe they're not as in tune to the things that are happening around them, and being able to, send our students. We have a great program on our campus it's a disaster management program that literally is training our students to be able to go to disaster areas. We've sent students to whenever, Hurricane Sandy, to Katrina, to Haiti, whenever we had a tornado in southern Ohio. Just this fall, or I think it was last spring, we had a situation just across the river where the water supply was contaminated. And so we were taking, large loads of water across the river to help this particular community, to assist them. And so we're trying to embed this academically, as well as just an extracurricular activity for students to invest and be a part of.
Yeah, is there actually a major, like a community service major? That's probably not the right terminology, but
right.
Yeah.
We have a couple of different majors that would focus in this regard. One would be an intercultural programming, which helps our students prepare for a more what traditionally would have been called a missionary degree, or a degree in which students can go to other countries or other locations and serve the needs of other countries or other communities. The other one is our disaster management program, and the disaster management program focuses specifically on preparing our students to go and serve within disasters or instances where there's some kind of whether it's a tornado or hurricane, loss of power, loss of water, those things, and be able to go and set up a system that will help get people back on their feet again. So.
Yeah, that's really interesting. So that's not only useful for the disaster relief event itself, but then what kind of jobs do they end up getting with that major?
Right. Emergency management jobs are available to them. There's jobs within organizations that they can get as well. With the one program I was just mentioning, for missions, they can go and serve in missions organizations or in parachurch organizations that will be a sending agent for them to go to other countries and serve.
Yeah, real good. So what, getting back to some of the background material there, what effects do you see of cultural pressures on the students at Ohio Christian?
Right. That's a great question, because what we want to be able to do is help our students be able to see beyond themselves. So what we see is that service or self-service often comes over the needs of others and community as a focus. And we see that both in the way that they're indoctrinated in our culture through media, social media. And so that's probably the first thing that comes to mind. Second thing is the cultural mandates to have rather than to give. Whether we intend that to be intentional or not, it's very much a part of who we are as a culture. And then I think the misunderstanding that sustainability is not the government's responsibility, but it's my responsibility as an individual. And so helping our students be able to understand the importance of investing in the community and individuals within the community and being able to serve. And the response, coming back to us, the response from our community has just been overwhelming.
Yeah.
I think sometimes people have the expectation that they've figured out on their own, or they have to rely on the government, and to have an organization that actually is embedded in their community that wants to serve and wants to give back is sometimes overwhelming, and we just get an overwhelming response from our community as a result of that.
Yeah, I am very much looking forward to hearing more of the details of that. We're coming up on a break here, but one quick question before we do. You mentioned the aspect of one of the cultural pressures results in, not as high a level of responsibility as you'd like. But in terms of the program, students that are involved in the program, do they increase their level of responsibility to the community?
They do. And what we find is that students, we have a number of different programs. I hope I'll get a chance to share a few of those with you. But what we find is that students will connect with an organization, and they will often stick with that organization because they see the need, the opportunity has presented itself to them, and they understand, they begin to understand even at 18, 19, 20 years old, the importance of giving back. And so they're seeing that investment in a limited sense come to fruition and being able to experience what it means to live outside of themselves or to experience life outside themselves.
Yeah, real good. I do have another follow-up question for you, but it'll have to wait till after the break, and we'll go ahead and take the break right now.
I'm Brian Leach, owner of Service Legends, and my position is Chief Talent Officer.
I'm Nicholas Wonderscheid.
I am Bernie Homs.
And I'm the Service Manager.
Marketing Director and Client Relations Manager.
Everything that we do is about ensuring that we exceed your expectations.
Our clients are important to us. 100% satisfaction.
We're not just focused on heating and cooling. That's the easiest part of our job, actually, is fixing furnaces and air conditioners.
Everyone that we come in touch with, we want to improve lives.
Bottom line is, we've got our installation guarantees, 25% energy savings guarantee, comfort guarantee, temperature selection guarantee, property protection guarantee.
100% satisfaction guaranteed, fixed rate or it's free.
All of those guarantees are backed up with a 100% money-back guarantee to hold ourselves accountable to making sure that you get what you're after.
Just fixing the problem today. If they have another problem 5 days down the road, it's still fixed rate or it's free.
We use what's called straightforward pricing. Our technicians are going to give you an exact to-the-penny price on what it's going to take before they move forward with any repair. That way you know what to expect.
It's the same price every day.
No surprises.
If you get off work at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, you come home, you realize that, oh, my furnace is broken. Now you need to call somebody out that night. You shouldn't have to pay more for that.
We're guaranteeing service 24/7.
We run afternoons, evenings, nights, weekends. We're staffed to work that.
Phone rings at 3 in the morning. You'll get one of our representatives answering the phone every time.
We're not sending you out to Timbuktu in some call center. It's our Service Legend team members, our mission control team.
I'll take a call anytime.
And then they answer the phones the same way during the day as they do at night.
It's a great day at your service company. How can we make you smile?
That's the only way to provide true 24-hour service.
When you're able to let somebody actually live in their home safely when they weren't able to do that before, where they don't have to stay up at night and worry about, is the heat going to come back on? Are we going to freeze the pipes? Is the baby in the room next door going to be sick because they got too cold? When you're able to help somebody overcome challenges like that, that's impacting a life. That makes a difference. I get goosebumps thinking about it.
I love the team. I love the people that I work with.
We have fun, but we work hard.
I call them my ambassadors of legendary service. If you could just envision what that is, that's who we're sending to your home.
They literally will call in, pick up the phone and call and say, hey, I want to talk to your manager. And I get on the phone, they're like, that technician that was at my house was the greatest technician ever. That's cool to me.
We want to brighten people's days.
Every person that we have going into the house has gone through an extensive background check.
Drug testing, we have a very thorough interview process that 1 out of 140 people make it through.
If we promise you something, that's what you're going to get, no matter what.
We're here when you need us to protect the safety and comfort of your family.
If you're not happy, we're gonna make it right.
If we're willing to put 100% money-back guarantee on what we do, what type of work do you think we do?
Give us a call. We're there for you 24/7, 365 days a year.
Enough said.
Hi, welcome back to Jet Radio. I'm Ted Shire, your host, and we have today Rick Christman from Ohio Christian University. He is the assistant provost, and we are in a discussion about community sustainability. So when we left off, we were talking about some of the cultural impacts on students, and I had another follow-up question that I wanted to ask Rick, and that is, I know some of this from personal experience. Whenever there's kind of an individualistic mindset, it can lead to depression. Do you see a depression in students on campus as a result of some of those cultural pressures, Rick?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think obviously that's not my area of expertise, but the impacts that students have and being able to just or having those struggles is very evident at times, and so we do see those situations arise from time to time. So.
Yeah, And do you have a counseling center on campus, or how are those needs addressed?
Yes, we do have a counseling center on campus. Yes, and so we help. We are specific or intentional about helping our students, find the help that they need whenever those situations arise.
Yeah.
And they're, sometimes they come with those pre-diagnosed situations or diseases, and so we just connect with them early on. Other times, students are diagnosed while they're a student, and as they're entering into adulthood, those things will come to fruition. So they'll be able to understand that their needs are there, and they'll come to us for help.
Yeah. And do students of faith tend to have some shame about admitting that they're depressed or anxious? Is it harder for people of faith to admit that sort of thing?
I'm not going to say no. I think our culture has become more open or accepting of those situations, and so even in our churches, I think people are seeking help. I'm not saying that everybody does. In no way would suggest that I'm the expert in that regard. But I think there is shame, and some people don't want to talk about it. And we've seen students who have come to school and they want to try to overcome some situations in their life, and they don't want to seek out help, and they try to navigate around that and try to work it out on their own. And their parents will often become the mediator between my department of student development and say, my student or my son or my daughter is struggling with this particular situation, and so they'll be that kind of that mediation between us to see that the students are getting the help they need. So.
Yeah, and particularly at a young age, it can sometimes be confusing to know where to turn for help. But
absolutely,
yeah,
and they have to feel that the information that they're sharing is secure, and that there's not going to be, that information isn't going to be shared. And so obviously students are protected by the FERPA laws as well as HIPAA laws. So.
Right. Yeah. So we've been talking about some of the unsustainable patterns that can develop in communities, and let's turn now to what healthy patterns would be that would lead to a more sustainable path. And something that's not as appreciated these days is character development. We tend to think in terms of no one tells us what to do, and each person for himself, and whatever anyone believes is fine, and really those are not healthy mindsets. We need people need each other, and we need the input that others have. So that we don't self-destruct. Humans have a natural tendency towards self-destruction left to themselves, and so character development is relevant. It's not some sort of fundamentalist moralism. It's an essential need of human nature, and so communities are important in character development. And we can say a few things along these lines. So, for instance, caring for the vulnerable develops compassion and reduces elitism. And, again, we can look to history to see examples of where the lack of compassion was extremely destructive. And, the famous examples are Nazi Germany, perhaps the least compassionate society in history, who knows? But 200,000 mentally ill patients were killed in the concentration camps by the Nazis. And character development helps us to become less individualistic so that there's more cooperation. Character development helps to increase understanding of those less fortunate. Character development helps us become more accountable to each other on the obvious issues so that problems are addressed instead of being deadlocked in power struggles. It's interesting that we just passed the elections, and again, it's evidence, I think, that most people can agree on what's obvious, because because we're flip-flopping so much in the political arena, with candidates getting elected in and then elected out of office. It's obvious that there's a huge segment of independent voters. I'm actually one of those myself, and because it's very difficult these days to take a stance with one party or another because of rigid party platforms that aren't an accurate representation of most of the best overall path forward. So most of those independent voters, the advantage of that is that a lot of those people can agree on the obvious problems, and that's why they tend to flip-flop, because they think that, well, maybe this next person will actually address the obvious problems that we have, rather than getting elected just for his political career. And by contrast, those that are on the extremes of politics tend to not be able to agree on some of the common ground and obvious issues. So the 4 areas of sustainability have the potential for broad cooperation. Most people can agree on the needs that are out there in the community, and even safe limits. And so, but addressing those needs is a different level of cooperation, because then you get into the specifics on which people disagree. And before we go to another question from Rick, another important element of sustainable communities, which we addressed last time, is identity healing. So character development and identity healing are both foundational elements of higher levels of sustainability. It's really the basis of all other levels of sustainability, since sustainability depends on human behavior. So for identity healing, there's very successful programs in existence that such as recovery programs or safe communities where identity healing can take place. As we had discussed last time with Joe Wood, who's a leader with Celebrate Recovery, that program is volunteer-driven and has a curriculum developed over 20 years, a very solid program that's helped millions of people now, because it addresses the most basic and most important issue on which all other areas depend, and that is personal sustainability. So, Rick, what do you see as the characteristics of a healthy community?
That's a great question, Ted. And I think that there's a number of things you could probably add to these, but as I was thinking about that particular question, I think, first of all, a community that cares for those who have specific needs. And as a community, we have to be willing to build on those things that will help support the needy, and not just be reliant on government agencies to do that. I think the second thing is a community that models service to other communities. And so when another community has a tragedy or has a need, being able to go and serve in those other communities to provide for those needs and to assist as we can. I think another thing is a community that extends its own resources is important as well. And I think that's part of the modeling agent that creates sustainability for us. And the fourth thing is that it understands the benefit of investing in the lives of others in other communities. And I think we understand that when we invest, kind of the golden rule, do unto others as you have them do unto you, being able to invest in others and then having that reciprocated whenever, we have a need, in those organizations being able, or communities being able to come and serve us as well. And I think it builds a stronger sense of community when we do those things. And you were also talking about, character, developing character. That's one of the things that companies and organizations are calling for are students and a workforce that has character built within the curriculum or within our students. And we have been very intentional at Ohio Christian to embed character development within our students, not just in terms of service, but in the other attributes of character development. And we think that's very important.
Yeah. No, that's great. So you mentioned service to other communities. I like that, because not only can we as individuals serve other individuals, neighbors helping neighbors type thing, but communities can help other communities. That is great. So it's scalable. What examples have you seen of a community helping another community and benefiting because of that?
Right. About 15 years ago, we began a program called Community Action Day, and it has just continued to grow on campus. And what we do is we literally shut down our campus, our college campus, that community for the entire day, and we spend months prior to that just collecting opportunities to go and serve. So whether it's a single mom, or a church, or our visitor center, or what we call the canal. There's just different locations, cemeteries, the community library, and we go and we serve. We shut down the entire campus, and staff, faculty, students. This past year, we sent out over 700 people to serve in this particular day. And watching our community, our small community on campus, go out and serve, and the response that has, what that does for our students. And I'll tell you what, you don't see any. Most people are just delighted to be able to have people come and serve them, but the response to that is that those who are doing the serving, it just builds positivity, it builds energy, just the whole concept of serving and giving to others builds camaraderie, and the teams actually have a bonding that takes place that carries over throughout the year as well. So
yeah, and so as a result of that, have there been people that have been served and then become providers for programs at the university?
Oh, absolutely. And they want to come back and, what the questions usually come back, what can we do for you, is the response that we often get, whether it's in a letter or just verbally saying, hey, we'd love to come and be a part of the campus. What can we do and come and serve? We have a very big volunteer group that comes and serves in a number of different events that we have on campus, whether it's an athletic event, or our leadership forum, different things like that. They'll just come and they just give the day, and they'll just serve back. And it's built a community of service and the concept of service.
Yeah,
it goes both ways. I don't think you can just say we're doing all the giving and they're doing all the taking, because the reciprocation of that is that they're coming and serving us as well. So.
Right. So you mentioned the benefits of investing in other people and other communities, and so I would imagine that's part of the character building that's built into the curriculum. But can you describe that in more detail? What are there particular character attributes that you're looking to build into the curriculum? Tell us more about that.
Yeah, exactly. And what we did was a number of years ago, I was tasked with developing what we call our conceptual framework. And we began, listening to what companies and what organizations were wanting. And the one thing that people will say, organizations will say, is that we can teach skills, but you can't teach character. That is something that somebody has to have embedded within who they are. And so we said that is so important to the development of our students. Why aren't we being more intentional? Because we can teach, you can teach composition, you can teach, math and science and the general education courses, as well as the specific courses for the academic programs. But why aren't we embedding character traits right into the curriculum? And so every semester we have a 2-year cycle in which we literally embed character traits into our classes. So it doesn't matter whether it's composition or English, English or Composition 2, or we're talking about mathematics, or we're talking about sciences or whatever. We want them to embed the character traits right into the curriculum. So professors will take this, and we have 3 per semester that we'll focus on. And we want our students to have it not just as the administration says this is important. We want them to hear the professors and being able to see how this is important to the particular topic that they're learning. So.
Yeah. Yeah, real good. So that's really interesting. So I'm you mentioned 2 years, so it's not a short term project, is it?
No, it's not. Absolutely not. We have 12 that specific traits that we say this is what we want to embed in our curriculum so that students can learn this. And we do this. So whether in our small group ministries or our chapel, we have a chapel that's required twice a week, or we're talking about in the classroom. So it's holistically being embedded into the development and the teaching of our students.
Yeah. Can you tell us some of those 12?
Sure, absolutely. We, for instance, semester 3 is patience, faithfulness, self-control. The fourth semester, we focus on diligence, generosity, respect. And, those are pretty deep topics when you begin to flesh them out and helping students understand what does it mean to have, respect for myself, respect for others. What is generosity? What does that look like? How can I be generous, whether it's, to those who are asking for handouts or those within my community and being able to serve and taking my experience of service into the organization, into the community that I'm going to go and live in once I graduate.
Yeah. Yeah. And does that 2-year period naturally lead the students into a mindset that this is a lifelong journey of character development?
That's the goal. That truly is the goal. We're not trying to just, add work for the professors or those who are, working in these particular areas. We want to embed within our students academically as well as professionally the importance of developing solid character traits and that which is going to impact them and their families and the communities that they're going to live in.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so interesting. Human nature tends to think in terms of, well, yep, I'll do the character development program and then I'll be done for the rest of life. And
right.
I think, I went through the same thing getting into recovery where I thought, well, yeah, I'll be done after I go through the 12 steps and then that'll be it. And as time has gone on, it's become so obvious that no, this is a journey that never ends because it's fundamental to human nature. Did you have anything else you wanted to add there? I felt like I might have cut you off.
No, that's okay. I just want to, just to reiterate the importance of, when you think about some of these words on the surface, they may feel like, well, when you talk about kindness or goodness or, gentleness, how do those apply to me professionally whenever I'm trying to be successful and so forth. But again, the organizations and companies that we're talking to and sharing with us are saying students have lost or have not had the opportunity to see the importance of character traits as an essential part of their life. And it's either not been modeled to them or it's just not been, it's been minimized through their life. And so whether it comes from home or the school systems that they've grown up in. So.
Yeah. So again, we're talking with Dr. Rick Christman of Ohio Christian University. He is assistant provost there and has a lot of good information for us that's relevant to community sustainability. So in regard to community service, we can talk about the benefits to volunteers, the benefits to givers, the benefits to recipients, and so forth. So for volunteers who can't give financially, and that's a point in and of itself. There's many people that are struggling financially, and so that doesn't mean that they can't give back. In fact, they can give perhaps a more valuable gift, that is their time and their experience back to the community. And so for former or current recipients of aid, when people who have received aid from others give back to the organization that helped them, it negates that unhealthy entitlement mindset that's actually self-destructive. And for students and youth, also those that aren't that financially well off, it provides experience and perspective to young volunteers that can help them to find the right path on their life journey. And it's a healthy contrast to the student stressors of competing for jobs. So benefits to givers or providers. it's it adds value to the community and helps individuals who volunteer in the following ways. So the benefits to providers of services and providers of material needs. Providers can manage resources for the common good. And an example of this is Lincoln Park Homeless Shelter. And again, when I lived in Chicago, that was a place that I volunteered at, place that was really the highlight of my week when I was at my lowest point. And that was an example of a group of local citizens in the Lincoln Park area coming together, seeing a need. They saw increasing numbers of homeless people in the Lincoln Park area and decided to do something about it. And a network of 4 different churches came together, and they established a comprehensive care facility within those church networks. And today it's a full-fledged program that's very successful. They have a comprehensive approach, and they have a high success rate. So they have food and shelter. They have job training. They have issue counseling, and it works. And so you can have normal citizens coming together. You can have very wealthy people starting foundations, like we mentioned with Bill Gates and Warren Buffett. Recently heard about Arthur Blank, and he's the owner of the Atlanta Falcons and one of the founders of Home Depot. And he has invested his resources in early childhood development, also in the arts and parks. Arts beauty is a very important element for community sustainability in ways that are often unappreciated. So other ways that givers can give back to community are passing on their life lessons. So passing them on gives the climax generation satisfaction that their life history and lessons can positively impact a new generation. And there's enormous benefits to the recipients that are open to learning it. And there are many of the younger generation that would love to hear those lessons. So how can givers give back? And that is with gratitude to those that invested in them. In reading the book Outliers about Bill Gates' journey, Bill Gates was very grateful and gave credit to those that helped him, and he gave credit to the timing. He was in the right place at the right time, and so he appreciates those factors in his success, and gives credit there. Warren Buffett has teamed up with Bill Gates to funnel money into the Gates Foundation, and the Gates Foundation is active in vaccine development. Preventive healthcare it's much more cost effective to prevent disease than to treat it, and so vaccine development and distribution, education, and agricultural development are some of the main areas where the Gates Foundation has an impact. But Bill Gates, again, is a great example because not only in the nonprofit world, but business can make enormous contributions to community. Bill Gates has helped establish TerraPower, which is a next-generation nuclear company, and it ultimately gives back to the community by addressing very significant problems. Our energy supply, nuclear waste, terrorist nuclear weapons. This next generation of nuclear technology helps address all of those because it takes our current stockpile of nuclear waste and uses it as a feedstock in these new reactors called traveling wave reactors, or there's a couple of different models. But basically they can help to detoxify that nuclear waste and use it as fuel at the same time. And so it takes it out of the hand. It not only takes care of the waste problem, but it prevents it from becoming a potential material for terrorists. And let's see. So we've got benefits to volunteers, benefits to givers, and benefits to recipients of services and material needs. So recipients need not only the material, they also need training and community, and the community part has been underappreciated. And in the U.S., it's harder for all of us to understand the true needs of human nature because we can cover it up with all the prosperity substitutes that have been part of this country. So there's needs that are way beyond the monetary needs. And let's see. Rick, let's go to a question for you. How has Ohio Christian reached out to its host community?
There are many ways that we've sought to do this, and as I mentioned a little while ago, Community Action Day is a big day on campus. We do it every spring, early part of April, but we've also just recently developed it, and we knew we wouldn't get much publicity for this particular event, but we focused on all the churches in our community, regardless of denominational boundaries or anything like that. We just said churches are often underserved. They're always giving and contributing to their communities, but who focuses in return to what they contribute. And so we created this fall, very first one we ever did. Right. We sent out 400 staff, faculty, students to go and serve the churches, and we did everything from painting walls, cleaning gutters, doing whatever pastors and church leaders needed for us to do. And so that's one way we've contributed back. Our students, in another curricular aspect of what our students are required to do, and they don't get it does not affect their GPA, but we have transcripted their required 5 semesters of Christian service projects, and these are individual projects that they will go and do every semester for 2.5 years. And often what they'll do is that they'll continue to focus on the same organization or the same location throughout their entire time. And they have to earn at least 14 hours of service within a given semester. And they do that, as I said, five semesters throughout their education. Another thing I would say is that our athletic teams are pushed and required to serve. And they'll go and do everything from upward sports. They'll work with those teams of kids to serving at the Ohio Food Bank. They'll go and do church projects, community projects, and so they're required to do that as well. And then our faculty and staff serve on many local boards and places that need their expertise. What we found is that we're a sending agent. We try to empower and train our students to serve our faculty and staff as well. Yeah.
Thanks so much. We're going to go ahead and go to a break here. And when we come back, we'll be looking at some of the ways that we can transition to a volunteer movement and a mission that can create a more sustainable society.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
Get away from us, you mean old credit card. We don't have any more money. We're in trouble now. Save us! Help! Somebody save us! Somebody help! Help! Save us!
Hi, I'm Tom Coates from Consumer Credit of Des Moines. If your credit card's a little too animated, give us a call.
Hooray! We're saved! Consumer Credit, you're our hero!
See them here, see them there. You got bad credit, we don't care.
Visit emetroford.com for your guaranteed credit approval. Good credit, bad credit, no credit. Everybody drives with guaranteed credit approval at emetroford.com. Visit emetroford.com today.
Hi, welcome back. This is Ted Shire with JETT Radio, and we're committed to community service as a means of sustainability. And my guest is Rick Christman, Ohio Christian University Assistant Provost, and he's been able to share stories with us about how his school is reaching out to the surrounding community. And so in the last few minutes here, we want to transition into some possible ways forward that volunteers can create a sustainability movement. And before we do, I wanted to mention one example because the Climax generation is so valuable because they have a lifetime of lessons that they can pass on to the next generation. And for those in the Climax generation that might be listening, really there's some clear examples out there that you can follow. And one of those is John Maxwell. His specialty is, in essence, passing on his life lessons through leadership. And you can go to any of his books, and they're full of that theme. So if you're looking for examples, that's a great place to start. But I want to finish up here with some elements of volunteer sustainability movement. And why volunteers? Why are volunteers essential for creating a sustainability movement? And that is for several reasons, actually. Volunteers are the only ones that can deal with certain types of problems. Obviously, problems where funds are insufficient for sufficient numbers of paid staff, whereas volunteers are free. For political problems, where sides might be deadlocked over power struggles, and volunteers can actually go out and meet needs because they are not subject to the same types of constraints that exist in the political environment. And then a third type of situation where volunteers would be ideally suited is that no one else wants the job. But there's many people that find a great deal of personal benefit from volunteering and are happy to do that. So the rationale is for a volunteer movement is more compelling than other types of previously successful movements because sustainability affects everyone worldwide, and the urgency is becoming clearer. So, there's basically 1 to 3 decades to figure out whether, as some of the predictions that have made, whether current patterns are unsustainable, which they may well be. There's writings such as the book 2052 that concludes that we have already overshot carrying capacity by 50%. And so if that's true, which it may well be, then we need to act quickly. General characteristics of a sustainable or successful movement are value-based. Both the civil rights movement and the environmental movement were nonviolent and involved large numbers of people based on values. And whenever sufficient numbers of people with strong values take action, our government has usually responded. And it's because of those numbers that the government has responded. And as we mentioned before, most people, probably 60% or so, agree on the needs and safe limits and will cooperate. And most people are willing to sacrifice when the awareness comes. And so the mission is really twofold, and I think we'll probably finish up with this as we're coming down to the end of the show here. And that is to meet community needs and to have accountable government. So the good news is that there's still sufficient numbers of skilled and resourced people to address community and national needs with their own resources. And the bad news is that it won't stay that way if current trends continue more than a couple more decades. And so people need to start using their own resources and skills to impact their community and keep it up. And for accountable government, even if we remained in a state where volunteers were doing all they could, our leaders could still spin us into a crisis. So we need leaders that are accountable to the electorate. So volunteers can take action, they can send leaders the results, and they can spread awareness on financial accountability and other issues and hold our leaders accountable before crisis arises. And I think we'll go ahead and finish up with that. And thanks to Rick Christman, Assistant Provost for Ohio Christian University, for sharing with us the impact that your school has had on the community. Thanks for now.
Thank you very much.
And next week we'll be back with financial sustainability.